My name is John and I'm at Paint School on Instagram. I've done over $15 million in paint jobs and I'm based out of Huntington Beach, California. Aaron is at Alpha Painting on Instagram. He's managed huge commercial projects with impossible timelines and now is a few years into building his own operation out of Branson, Missouri.
And you should probably check out our full process videos on YouTube because they're pretty badass.
Our point in doing this podcast is to put our 40 plus years of combined experience to the test. We've seen a decline in the industry, and while I think it's a bit arrogant to think we can change it, we're giving it a shot. Listen up and let us know what you think. This is Paint Sniffers Podcast. All right, so I wanted to talk to you about your FPE project you have going on. You were doing wainscoting or shiplap and starting cabinets or doing cabinets. What's going on?
We're pretty much done with the cabinets, but yeah, we had 2 shiplap accent walls that were FPE, and then a whole cabinet package. Shit, man, it's probably like a 350 piece cabinet set. But
whoa, is that all for a kitchen?
Kitchen, multiple bathrooms, mud benches, islands, wet bars, bathrooms, yada yada. It's not been fun. I'm not a fan of it. So, dude, yeah. So when I had talked to some guys, and kind of consulted with some of the guys I see using it and got their takes, and I was getting, multiple different takes on it. And, it seemed like, everyone agreed. And then I called FPE myself, and they're all about how it's a viable coating for cabinets and blah, blah, blah. And I was going to go with their oil primer and their oil eggshell, but they were out of stock. So I ended up getting kind of pushed into uni primer and eco satin. And I had some test runs on these shiplap accent walls, which they were retaining a lot of moisture. And, I had to let them acclimate for, weeks. And, once I pre-sanded, I could still feel moisture in them. So I didn't bother gauging it or whatever. I could just feel it, so I let them set for another couple weeks, and then I shellacked and then prepped it and then uni primed and then top coat. And initially when I shot that product, I shot a wall and then stepped back and I was like, okay, and that was like my first run, like, okay, I put it on too thick, So with the top coats, with the primer, my primer was 100% tinted 100% to the finish. And then I shot the finish and I backed it way off, probably around 1700 PSI, 308, and backed it off a lot. So in comparison to, modern acrylics that like to be put on heavy in order to get your, you got to put mill build on to get it to lay down. Products like emerald urethane or duration or just kind of, your typical acrylic paints or, oil modifieds. But this shit is the opposite. It likes to go on thin and then it'll kind of do its job and lay down. So it lays down excellent, but my biggest challenge has been getting the shit to cure, getting it to dry. It, everybody's feedback is, hey, the uni primer powders, it sounds great. Yeah. I can't get the shit to powder, and like letting it sit for like 2 weeks, it doesn't fucking powder. So,
and you did a dark color, right?
Yeah, it's a very dark color. So, no one acted confident that the uni primer was going to fully stain block. So I made the call to shellac, and those accent walls were kind of my test run for surface tension and stuff. So I was getting good adhesion. So I shellacked and then uni primed and then top coat. That looks excellent, man, but it is a soft fucking coating. I really hope that it dries down because I am not impressed with how soft it is. And when you run your hands on it, with it being an oil modified in that product, FPE's deal is like, hey, it's natural paint and it doesn't have all the junk in it like drying agents. Well, it turns out that you kind of fucking need those things, you need your shit to fucking dry. So I've not, it's not been hard. It's an easy product to figure out. I just don't honestly like its performance. So we are on to another huge project I'm moving to Centurion. We've got a big ass cabin, all wood, just like the current house we're on, but it's existing standing lacquer, and every square inch of it is wood, and we're gonna Centurion the whole fucking thing, which my vendor for Centurion is like 4 hours away. I was gonna have all my product shipped. And I got the ticket, and it's like $9,000 in Centurion, like $9,200, and I'm like, and the shipping's almost $1,000. I think I'm just gonna drive. I'm gonna drive to.
Yeah, that might be worth it.
I'm gonna drive up there to go fucking pick it up, dude, and I'll just lose a day, I guess. But I mean, it's gonna save me $1,000. So
how's gas prices where you are?
Oh, they're shitty for our area. We're not like California. The Midwest is kind of known for being super cheap in terms of gas, but I think we're in like the 370 range.
Damn, we're like $6.
Yeah,
it's crazy here.
Yeah,
it's wild. So, what made you decide to go with the Centurion for this project?
I've just been researching all these new 2Ks for like shit. It's been a couple years, and I've just been scared to pull the trigger on it because my Sherwin rep, sold me on Chem Aqua, and I did a set of cabinets with Chem Aqua, and it can be sprayed airlessly, and no, fucking can't, dude.
We had talked about that a little bit, how thin it is.
Yeah, dude, it's like spraying 2% milk. Now, for just a straight acrylic 1K coating, like that shit, it dries hard as a rock. I was impressed with that. It powders the next day if you're sanding between finish coats. I think it's a very viable coating for cabinets, but I do not want to spray that shit, and I'm not going to buy, equipment to like erect my process around a product that I really don't like. I'm just going to find a product that I like, and that's what I'm hoping with Centurion is that everyone says it likes to be sprayed airlessly, so I hope they're fucking right about that.
Yeah, a lot of the 2Ks, I think that's pretty consistent with the 2Ks, is airless is probably better for them. I think they like a lot of air. It's a thicker product. We've been using a lot of Ilva, which is the main 2K in my area that's available. So I can get Renner around here. I'm sure I can get Centurion. But Renner's like an hour and a half away, and it's like not a quick ordering process. And for me, I could do it with better planning, but I'm not a great planner, and I like to get shit last minute. I'd like to be able to get a gallon tomorrow morning if I need to.
Yeah,
and not have to do a 3-hour round trip.
That's a scary thing too for me. Is like I'm, a set of cabinets is low volume. You're looking at I don't know, between like 3 and 7 gallons of paint on average, and I'm looking at my numbers right now. I'm at like 95 gallons, and
that's crazy
to do the inside of this place. And I'm like, fuck, dude. That's
a lot.
That's why I'm going to drive up there to pick it up, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's expensive.
I think I'm going to back my order off just a touch and just deal with it because it is so expensive. And then I'm using the 1107, and once I got my pricing models, once the dude, gave me the pricing, then the 1107 catalyzes. So, fuck, you've got another so many dollars per gallon that adds when you catalyze it. But my top coat is going to be the 1K 400 series. So, I don't have to catalyze the top coat. So
the stuff dries hard as a rock, and it's really the closest thing I've seen to a lacquer finish. As far as how smooth it is, how tight the finish looks. It's a good looking product. Yeah,
I'm excited to use it. I was going to use Envirolac at first, but I made multiple calls, talked to people, and that they'd never called me back. So fuck them. I'll spend $10,000 with Centurion and try them.
Yeah, is what it is. I don't know that. I think some of the companies are working harder on better primers, and I think Centurion is probably one of those. Like the 1107 seems like a really good product and probably one of the better stain blocking primers. But I haven't used it yet. I know there's a few, like Renner seems to be coming out with different primers pretty regularly. But I think for all of them, stain blocking is the issue.
Yeah.
It's like that's the one that nobody's figured out yet. But if you see some of these guys on YouTube talking about all the 2K stuff, I forget, maybe the 1107 was the rattlesnake primer and whatever names they give them.
So the way the reps have explained it to me was that if you catalyze the 1107, you can't quote me on it. It was either I think it's 15%.
Yeah.
That you're going to get stain blocking, through the catalyst. So my plan, what I've geared up for is, we're going to degloss everything, chemically degloss everything. I'm going to pre-sand everything. And then I'm going to, catalyze my 1107 and shoot a coat of primer on everything. Then we're going to knock it off. And then I'm going to prime a second time just to cover my ass.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even, on a project that big, you can almost like test on site, even if you do one section, one coat of primer, put a little bit of finish on it. The nice thing about the 1K is you're not having to catalyze it, use whatever you've mixed, clean out your machine real quick. You can kind of leave it in there. You can leave it set it up that way. It is interesting though. It does harden. It'll harden in my filters, not in the filters, but around in the parts of the filter where it would like gunk up at the ends, either end of the filter. It'll harden like little rocks in there, even if you're just letting it sit in water. If you don't clean it thoroughly, pull all your filters apart, the shit will dry up in there. It's crazy stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool. The Ilva is the main one we've used. I've used the Renner a little bit, but Ilva is the one that I use a lot, and I would recommend that for sure.
Yeah, I've got a specific pump kind of set aside that I can kind of just throw into this and trash it if it came down to it. I will attempt not to ruin it, but I think I'm going to mix up. Once I'm all masked off and I'm pulling a trigger, like I'm going to be putting on like probably 5 gallons an hour or so would be my guess. But so I'm going to probably start out and not mix up more than like 4 gallons at a time and just kind of catch it. But this whole place is, so the ceilings are one color, the walls are one color, the trim package is another color. And then I have beams that are going to get whitewashed and distressed. So we're going to have to go in, bag off all the beams. I'm going to probably shoot all the primer, prepper jams, all that shit, and then just shoot the entirety of the house in primer, ceilings, walls, trim.
Yeah.
And then we will probably because the way the car siding butts into stuff, I've been drumming through this in my head, like how the fuck I'm going to approach it most efficiently, because none of it is cut and roll, so I can't cut and roll the fucking walls last or anything like that. So I think we're going to prime everything. Then I'm going to shoot the trim package. Then I'm going to bag the trim package off. Then I'm going to finish the walls, and then I'm going to drape the walls in plastic and shoot the ceilings last. That's not preferable for me, but if you were to look at it and see it yourself, that's the only masking transitions that would allow you to cycle through that certain process. Otherwise you'd be fucked. Like you'd be sliding tape behind a door jamb, or you would be masking, all the profile on a ceiling if you did the walls last. And so that's the only really efficient way I've figured I can do it.
Easier to cover walls and ceilings anyway. That makes sense. So I'm not sure if you have to be careful of this, but if you mix up 1 gallon of catalyzed primer versus mixing up 5 gallons at the same time, I don't know if it'll set off the paint faster because of the volume. If you have epoxy and you mix up a bunch of it and leave it in a can or in a bucket, it'll set off faster than if you just have a gallon at a time or if you pour it out. I don't know if the catalyst will heat it up at all. I don't know if it'll make it harden faster by being that much volume all in at once.
I don't know. The only
Yeah.
I have a background in commercial, like commercial production and then
Yeah.
industrial maintenance. So when we fucked with epoxies, it was like macros and tile clads and stuff. So you've got like 1-to-1s and 1-to-4s. You got like 30-minute sweat ins and 2 to 4 hour pot lives or no sweats and reduce for 54, reduce for 15. And in my head, I don't want to fuck with products like that on a set of cabinets, but I have to try it out. I got to find a viable system for refinishing cabinets. So
I think you'll be happy with the 2K. I mean, they're really nice finishes. And hopefully the 1107 works for stain blocking primer, because I'd like to switch to that too.
Well, they act like it'll do it in one coat, so it better fucking do it in two.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that'll be a good test. That's a big project too. I saw the pictures of that, or the videos.
Yeah, dude, my schedule's starting to get fucked. Like, I've got we're probably booked for most of the year, and I don't even know how we're going to start getting to some of this shit. And I'm going to start. We're fixing to be triple booked, and now I'm starting to do the thing where like I'm separating the crew, which is just me and my brother right now because we done fired everybody else. But he's going to be on one difficult job. I'm going to be on another difficult job, and I'm going to fucking cross my fingers that he's not fucking off, But I'm going to have to go there like at least once a week, have him prepare shit, go there once a week to spray and kind of keep the ball rolling.
How far away are the two projects from each other?
Fuck, dude, like an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so I've got my trailer on one job, and then I left him a bunch of tools on the other job and shit.
Are you going to consider hiring anybody this year?
I'm going to have to, dude. So I'm kind of upside down on that one house. So I had to get, just due to scheduling and stuff, but I got to get the ball fucking rolling on other stuff to get the money coming in. So I'm running around right now. There's some jobs that are handing out deposits, so I'm taking them, and that's going to, I think I'm going to be able to build my capital up enough to probably put a guy or two on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, lighten the load.
Yeah.
All right. So somebody emailed in about a woodscapes project. They had some kind of failure on it.
Yeah, so this dude contacted me. Well, I guess we'll just keep, for the time being, unless people kind of straight come out and say it, we'll keep people, unanimous, just in case we say things that makes them look like an idiot, or if we say things they don't like or whatever. But this dude contacted me. He kind of asked my opinion about woodscapes, and so he took on a repaint, which, he keeps saying repaint. Woodscapes is a solid body stain.
Yeah.
But it was molded. He cleaned it with bleach, sodium hypochlorite, and repainted it with what he thought was the existing product, which was Woodscapes. It was at the house. It was marked. And now he's going back, and he's got areas that won't stop molding. So
that's right. This was like within a year, it was getting moldy again, and the clients want him to fix it, right? They're kind of blaming him for it. He didn't fix the problem.
Yeah, so I guess suppose this subject will kind of just go through and kind of touch base on some of the things that we think the dude could have done, should have done, how to deal with the homeowners. Obviously the things that he should have done will be a learning experience for next time, but as of dealing with the situation right now, so we'll kind of explore both sides, what he should have done and what he can possibly do now.
Yeah. So what do you think? So, if you go do a bid on this project and it's exterior and the people are saying, hey, last guys came in, they did this, less than 3 years ago. I'm getting mold all over the side of my house. I don't want to have them back out to do it. What is that conversation like when you're talking to a client about what their expectations should be? About what you would do to try and mitigate mold coming back. How do you get rid of it? How do you keep it gone? What do you go over the top of it with? What would be your conversation with the client?
I think for starters, like with this particular situation, I am assuming that they just kind of wanted him to freshen it up was the take that I got from them. So it sounds like it was budget sensitive. So essentially, the dude had contacted his Sherwin-Williams rep, and the rep okayed cleaning it with sodium hypochlorite and recoating it with woodscapes. And now he's just back there, cleaning it and touching it up because the mold keeps coming back. I think initially the conversation with the homeowners probably should have been like, the thing with the Sherwin-Williams reps or any reps in general is they're sometimes going to tell you what you want to hear. And also a lot of times, they go to these fucking training seminars and stuff and they're not field guys. They come back with information that was told to them versus, information that actually applies to the field. So when I personally use a rep, and I have him come field assess a job for me and, explore what products to use, yada, yada. The only thing he is there for is to answer questions that I already know the answers to. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting him to sign off on my process and, and those are
you just
usually
want someone
only,
to blame.
Yeah. And that's a double-edged sword too, because you don't want to be a high maintenance customer to them. Yeah. You want their respect. You want them to know that you know what you're doing. But there are some particular jobs that can kind of be nerve-wracking, especially in terms of repaints and stuff that you need to get them to sign off on it, because if it goes fucking bad, they're going to pay me to fix it. And having said that, like and this guy he's a low volume customer. So, I think he primarily uses, I can't remember if he said it was PPG or if it was Benjamin Moore. So Sherwin's not going to give him, that type of respect right off the bat. So they're going to kind of throw him under the bus if he was to have him come out and field assess it and do a PQR and, send a sample to a lab and all that shit. And then the results are probably going to come back not in his favor. But I think exploring the topic with the homeowner, you got to kind of, he gave them what they wanted, but how many fucking times have we done that in the field and then it bites you in the ass in the long run? So I don't do that shit anymore. I don't offer a lower price, option and hey, here's my half-ass option and we'll just throw paint at it. I don't do that shit anymore, because those are always the clients that are going to call you back and want you to fix the bullshit that they wanted to force you into in the first place. So
Yep. I will still do some of those lower price projects, but I'm like crystal clear in writing. I'm not going to stand behind this if it fails again.
Yeah.
Like right up front, just so everybody knows there's no hiding. And I'll tell them like flat out, if this comes back in a year, like, which it might, I'm not going to do it again for free. Do you understand? Like almost talking to them like a kid, right? Like, I'm not going to do it again. Do you understand? Okay, repeat it back to me. You're not going to do it again. All right, good. We're clear. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's probably how my conversation would have gone in this scenario too, if I'm talking to the client is, I think getting the rep involved would be a good idea. And now it's the same for me. I usually want someone to back the process. We did a big commercial project a while back, and we're painting exterior of like these flat metal panels, on the whole exterior of the building. It's like a 3-story office building. And, they had maintenance engineers for the building owners. And so they wanted everything done by the book. And so I had my rep come out for Dunn Edwards and basically put together a spec on this project, They're calling out the type of prep we have to do, the primer, the finish, the dry time, the whole deal. And then they're going to stand behind it. And this commercial property wanted a 3-year warranty. So, basically I wanted to have I want to have Dunn Edwards on the hook if anything went sideways. We followed all the prep to a T, and the project went fine. And in the beginning, trying to get the finish really nice was a nightmare. I didn't go back to that job for 3 years because I didn't want to see if it was all falling apart or not. But it all came out great. Looks good still.
Yeah.
But yeah, this conversation for me would have been, if it were just a budget project, I probably wouldn't even have the rep come out, right? If it's just like, hey, clean it and repaint. But I definitely would have had the conversation with them that, if I couldn't tell where the mold was coming from, or I couldn't tell how to keep it from coming back, I would tell them flat out, like, I can't guarantee the mold's not going to come back. For some reason it grew here to begin with. I'll kill everything that's there. We'll wipe it down. We'll clean it. We'll try to get rid of everything. But if it grew one time, it's probably going to grow again, unless we really dig in and figure out what the root problem was. So no guarantees. If it comes back in a year, I'd have to charge you to clean it and repaint.
So I think that's going to be the mold issue is going to be relying upon, potentially like your area. So you're in a dry climate, you're in an ocean air climate. I would assume that there's not a lot of mold growth where you live, correct?
Not much, but every now and then we get it on a house randomly.
Yeah.
But it's usually like a really wet side of the house, the house that doesn't get that much sun, or they have really wet ground in that side of the house. And so that moisture is just evaporating up and accumulating under the eaves, and that's where the mold will be.
So where I live, it's pretty bad. Like, every exterior that I come to, it is present and growing. So another thing too, like, why it's so important to bleach and wash prior is because mold in its growing state can be clear, and it's usually when it starts to die that it starts to turn colors and stuff. So, that's essential. But too, like with my warranties in terms of, like when I repaint something and I offer, the 8 to 10 year warranty or whatever on an exterior with paint, I'm only going to honor that if we're the ones that are cleaning it, because I don't know if some jackass is going to come like overload 100% bleach on something and fucking kill all the sheen on my paint, So I think with this dude, like, so, if I come across something that's solid body stain, I will not apply another coat of solid body stain. I think, you're looking at a product that is porous. It's an acrylic, so it's prone to peeling, it's only going to penetrate so much. And typically in my area, things start out as semi-transparent. They usually get turned over to solid body stain because they were never maintained properly. Yeah. So what I started doing over the years is, taking those projects, whether it is semi-transparent and hasn't been maintained in 20 years, or it was semi-transparent and switched to solid body, we go through and we do a 100 fast dry alkyd primer and then duration over the top of that. Yeah. And I've had success with that for like almost with the A100 alkyd primer, dude, for like almost 30 years. So yeah. There's, in comparison to Zenzers, how they will, products like that will chalk in extreme temperatures underneath of your paint, and you lose surface tension from the surface on outward. A100 alkyd, dude, will just be there, tough as nails. Like, it's not gonna cook underneath your paint. It does not promote mold growth, nor does duration. So like, I have really good success with converting acrylic or water-based solid body stains into duration. What we do is we bump the sheen down to flat or the low luster and augment the look of a solid body stain. But then you have the life of paint. So, that's kind of what we do on those projects that people don't want to pay for media blasting and spend, $30,000 to have their cabin media blasted or whatever. Like, there's not a lot of money in my market. So,
Yeah.
But it is more costly for us to do that than, the jobs that I'm just going to bid that, the paint is oxidized and we're going to go with like 2 coats of duration over it. So that process of oil priming and multiple top coats is a bit more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. And so solid body stain over solid body stain, it kind of stops doing what it's supposed to do, right? I mean, you want it to penetrate. That's the whole benefit of it, is that it'll kind of soak in. But if you start going over the top of itself multiple times, it stops soaking in.
And that's the thing with it too, though, is like in comparison to a transparent or a semi-transparent deep penetrating stain, like that product is not absorbing deeply into the wood. With latex paints like that, or with latex stains, it's only going to absorb so much, and then it's going to stop. And then on your second coat's mostly sitting on the surface. So it's just it's gonna fail, dude. And that product itself, so there's no true way to assess why that product is molding the way that it is and why this dude has to keep going back. But the product itself is porous and it is prone to losing surface tension. So I would start there. He's probably collecting mold and microbial formations due to his climate and due to the fact that product doesn't really expel those type of things because it is porous in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So a year later, he's got the client calling now, and the client is saying, get these messages out of here. Client is saying, hey, I've got mold back already. This shouldn't be here this soon. I want you to repaint that side of the house. Where do you go at that point? I mean, I don't know if we know if this person said, hey, the mold won't come back, or if they just said, I'll paint it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And the client calls back a year later and they say, it hasn't even been a year yet. My house is all moldy. What are you going to do about it? Because I think this guy was saying, do I take care of the client and just go ahead and take care of it this time? Do I have to keep doing this every year? Where do I go with this?
Yeah. So this is like a sticky situation. So the guy is not doing volume with Sherwin-Williams, so they're not going to treat him. And I mean, they're not going to treat him like they would, somebody else. So let's just be real with it. Like, I come from a background of running logistics for large commercial companies. So I've seen that side of the counter where they'll pretty much suck your dick, dude. If you're putting on, if you're putting on 1,000 gallons a day, like even if you're the guy running logistics and you're not the boss, like they're going to give you what you want. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you're just buying a few gallons of paint from them, dude, like you got to get up into the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in sales range for them to kind of bend over backwards for you. So this dude, for one, he's going to have to establish a relationship in order to get that type of treatment. But I think if I were in his situation, I would still have a rep come out. I would still have them do a PQR. The PQR is going to come back most likely inconclusive, or they're going to say you didn't clean it properly or whatever. But let them fucking do that. And, I would use a PQR as an excuse to try and establish a relationship with them and act like I wanted to start using them and yada, yada. And what that PQR is going to do is it's bullshit, but when they pull a destructive mill sample and send it to the lab, that's going to take several months. So that's going to buy you time with the homeowner. So, and that's all that would be about for me. And then I would attempt, just until that review comes back, I would be attempting to, play my sales rep to see what type of shit he's going to do. Maybe you could, convince him to supply the product in order to repaint it or whatever. But I don't know the guy's warranty. Like if he's a multiple year warranty, he's kind of fucked on that. But what I would probably do in that situation is I would probably go there probably 2 to 3 times a year if it's that bad, and I would just clean the areas that are molding and I would touch them up, and then
Yep.
just get through my warranty with that, and
Mm-hmm.
then eventually, offer them a discount on, repainting it. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you could get a rep in his situation to take any accountability, because like I said, he's not a higher volume account, so he's probably fucked with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dump, $10,000-$15,000 into a house like that, dude, and that's the whole point why sometimes you don't give people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
You just walk away from it,
Yeah.
Hey, we just want to freshen this up, throw woodscapes on it for us. That's what was on there before.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, why the fuck did you throw woodscapes on it?
Yeah. 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 100%. I mean, that's, yeah, I try to think how I would handle this if I were up against it. If I didn't have the conversation with them up front about the mold being an issue and me not warranting it. So if they did just want the quick fix paint job, I'd probably have the conversation about mold. I wouldn't stand behind it. We'll do the same product. It'll look good, but I can't guarantee for how long. But let's say I didn't have that conversation up front, and I have a standard 3-year warranty. I don't know that my rep they'd probably give me product for it. They wouldn't cover any of my labor costs, but they'd probably give me product.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I'd probably just eat it.
Yeah.
It's probably just a project I'm going to go to once a year or twice a year until the warranty's up.
I had Sherwin, we were doing a custom set of cabinets. The interiors were vinyl sealed and pre-cat lacquer with catalyst, and then the outsides were they were pigmented, pre-catalyzed lacquer. So I had an island. Well, there was an island and a set of cabinets in the bathroom that were stand-in lacquer on the outsides, and those were the only ones that weren't, pigmented on the outsides. And on my final coats of lacquer, and guys probably don't catch this shit. A lot of guys wouldn't catch something like this, where, whatever, you're pumped up in your top coat, you get it all sprayed, and then you start looking at your buckets and like, why do I not have a catalyst date on this? Or, you know what I mean? So I ended up getting my top coat uncatalyzed, and that is like a no fucking go. Yeah. With those Sherwood lacquers and stuff, dude. So they had to pay me not only in lacquer, but I made them pay me hourly to redo it all.
Yeah, nice. That's good. But so that's something they should stand behind, right? Like if you're a reputable company, I mean, that's a big mistake.
You got to use opportunities like that. Like I fired my sales rep over it. I fucking moved to another rep. I used, the whole situation as an excuse to get better pricing and blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, I went to Spectrum and, got breakdowns on all their products and fucking took those numbers back to Sherwin and slapped them down on the, on the fucking table while we're at lunch with Sherwin. And sometimes you have to be a dick, dude, because essentially they're just, that's a fine balance too. You have to assert the things that once you start doing a little bit of volume, you have to assert, that you're not going to put up with their shit. And it's like a balance of fear and respect and appreciation. And, once you show them what you're kind of about, then you start building that relationship with respect and yada, yada. But
I've got, so over the last 10 years, my Sherwin-Williams sales reps have been swapping out, I don't know, once a year. Lately it was like once every 6 months. And we buy almost all of our paint from Dunn Edwards, and we spend like $250,000 a year. So we're a big account. We're the biggest local account for the stores that we buy from. So we get a lot of pull there. And Sherwin-Williams finally maybe 6 months ago, they stuck me with this new sales rep, young guy, and he's been really hungry to get my business. You know, he's like, I don't understand why the other sales reps weren't. You know, we do a lot of volume. And so this guy's like bending over backwards, you know, to like match or beat my prices. Like, yeah, it's seriously like whatever, like anything I want. Christmas time last year, he's like, he's new to being a sales rep, period. He's like, so I just found out I have like this marketing budget, but I have to use it before the end of the year. He's like, can I like have a party for you guys or like do a lunch for your whole company? Or, you know, I'm like, yeah, sure. And he brought a bunch of brushes and shirts and sweatshirts and all that shit. So it was cool. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't beat my reps up on pricing too often. Every now and then I'll ask for discounts on stuff, but also like if I ask my Dunn Edwards sales rep for anything, he would do it. You know, it's like, I don't push him hard on pricing. Every now and then I'll be like, hey man, you know, Sherwin-Williams give me a way better deal on this product. I just need you guys to come close, you know, get closer and it's no issue. But if I have any project that goes sideways where I need a rep, which almost never, it's very rarely come to that, he would be there. You know, if I need him to put together a spec, if I need him to make a phone call, do whatever, he would go out of his way, you know, for us.
So we'll open up like a job account if we're going to take on like an apartment complex or something. Yeah. And, you know, within that job account, we'll get specialized pricing for that specific job. But I do like to have like my mainline products, you know, a fucking competitive price, dude. Like shit's expensive. We're you know, I'm in a really devalued area in a devalued market. So, I don't upcharge my product. So I try and use that as like a means to make my prices look a little bit more appealing because I'm usually the highest price on everything. Yeah. And that, you know, in all honesty, that pretty much in my area where, you know, fucking builders will spend fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars on a house and then fucking get some dumbasses in there to make it all look like shit. Like that's kind of a weird, shitty market to be in, but
yeah, that's a weird side of the business where, you know, the paint and finish work at the end of a project, especially for like new construction or remodel work like that, it has a pretty big impact of that 150 grand you just spent on the remodel. That last $10,000 or $15,000 is not really the place to cut corners on. You know, but it's amazing how many people do.
Yeah, dude, it's more common than not. Yeah. I had to pull out of doing production because I don't want to fuck with it anymore. Like if I look at like if I can do something with less guys than the competition, you know, and make it look better, you know, like in a light commercial project and production, why the fuck would I be doing it for like the same price or less? Yeah. You know what I mean? Just because I can, you know?
Right.
When I first went into business for myself, that's what I did. I did it just to, you know, see if I still had it and yada yada. And I did it for about a year, and I was like, dude, fuck this, dude. I'm not doing it anymore. So I kind of changed my whole strategy. And one of my marketing employees is to like, you know, the guys that are going to do it right. You know, we're going to clean up the previous fucked up paint job and do it right. And I think the result is I'm bidding a lot more jobs and getting a lot less jobs. But I mean, that doesn't go without saying that we're booked like fucking 6-7 months in advance. If not more. I haven't looked at my schedule since I've gotten a few phone calls here lately. So I'm probably even more fucked than that right now.
I think that's a strong position to be in. Like that's the position I like to be in too. Is I want to be a company that has a good reputation. We do really durable work. And we answer our phone. You know, we're not like a company that's going to disappear in a year. You know, if you have a problem with your project in a year, we're not going to just ghost you. You know, we'll return the call. We'll take care of the project. I have no idea how much business we get out of that, like being that kind of a company. But I know there have been people where, we did one maybe 2 months ago where the guy had, it was actually mold on his eaves on one side of the house. And, the project came up. He thought that we didn't paint that side. It was like white trim, but it was like a gray color. And he thought we just didn't paint the eaves there. That was our initial phone call. So I went out to the house to check it out. I'm like, oh, you just got mold growing on it. Like, that's not, we didn't miss it. I knew on the first phone call that we didn't miss it, but I had to go see it. And, I was like, look, this is not something I would cover into my warranty. Like, we can't stop that from growing. There's not, it could be from trees nearby. It could be from whatever. But I told him, I was like, look, I'll take care of it this time. We'll go ahead and clean it. We'll get it primed and painted. But I'm not going to do it next time, And so at the end of the project, he was really happy, gave us a good review, said he'll refer us, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I think, if I'm the client and that's my experience with the contractor, that is a good experience. It's fair that you're not going to do it again for free next time, but I'm glad that you did it for free this time. Like, that's a pretty stand-up move, And who knows how many, like, that's what's important to me. And I think that's why I value it. And that's why I want my company to represent that. To me, the being fair part of it is really important. And I think that transfers to other people. If you have a company that you could refer out and be like, they screw up every now and then, but they always fix it, right? They answer their phone. We called them 2 years later and they came out and fixed the thing. It's like, all right, well, that's something,
Yeah.
Some value there.
I'm still in the field 100%. So, my personal touch is on everything, and it's going to be hard for me to let go of that, as I grow. Mm-hmm. I've got some years left in me before I need to use, all of my bad decisions as an excuse. Like, this is my retirement plan, dude, is to be doing this shit, but, using architectural coatings as a means to not have to actually do it and just run the logistics on the front end. But, fuck, I don't know.
So I think the main thing that almost any company that I've talked to or interacted with that has grown bigger is they've all let go of quality a little bit.
Yeah.
And whether they lie to themselves that they haven't and they're still the best quality, I don't believe that. Like, I think most of them will agree that, they don't let perfect get in the way of great. Right.
My biggest problem right now, like the fucking paint, I'm in a smaller area, and the paint store, recently put up a new bulletin board for business cards. So now we've got 2 bulletin boards at the paint store for business cards because they just keep filling up with all of these fucking painters you've never heard of before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's a huge void in terms of experience. Like, I can't find anybody out there that I even want to dump any effort into right now.
Yeah.
And, one of these days when I get in the right situation, and I'm going to have to, bump us up to like 3 to 4 guys here pretty soon. But man, I don't know if I want to go back to like running 20, 30 guys ever again.
Yeah. Right now I'm comfortable with like 18 to 20. We have a comfortable system. I'm not stressed out. It's pretty comfortable right now.
Yours is pretty unique in comparison to the way that I used to do it. So we would run like large megalithic fucking heavy and light commercial jobs. And I could have, I might have some stragglers on some smaller infill or something like that. But the majority of our projects were, here's this giant project, we're fucking on it. And then we move to the next one. So I was always there, dude, just cracking the whip and fucking on the wall and leading by example. I would be interested to see how you do that shit with taking 20, 30 guys and having them spread between multiple jobs, because you're looking at needing actual journeymen is my guess, you know?
Yeah. So we have like 6 or 7 crew leaders, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to call them all journeymen because I don't think they all are. But so like 2 of them are on their way. They have enough experience to be called journeymen. They could call themselves journeymen. I don't think I would call them journeymen yet.
Yeah.
But then I've got like 4 guys that are legit journeymen. They know how to handle projects start to finish. Like they could manage their own company as far as doing the work if they wanted to. But it's like, that's what I mean. Like our process for doing things is the same most of the time. We're pretty consistent, pretty regular. Every now and then we get weird projects, but I have like one guy who's really good. He's a great painter. You know, he's got his own company. He does stuff on the weekends and, you know, whatever. But I could throw him at anything and he could figure it out, you know, or I can help him at least plan it out, troubleshoot, like what are going to be the issues or what could be the issues as we run through the project, and then set up a plan to finish it off, you know?
Yeah.
But so it's comfortable right now. I have a good crew, you know, good staff that's been with me for a long time. And I'm still going back and forth on whether I want to grow more or just stay here. You know, I'm a little impatient, or I don't know, I can't sit still. So I need to like do something. We had talked about this before.
Yeah.
And growing out of boredom.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still going back and forth on that. But I don't know. We'll see. I tried growing a couple years ago, pushing hard for growth, and it turned out to be a fucking nightmare. You know, it was like cool on the way up, but once we got to a position where it's like, we're like losing money on half of our jobs and making money on half of our jobs.
Yeah,
so
you can't do too fast. You get all these snakes in the grass and shit, and all these dudes that cause drama, all these guys that want raises and blah, blah, fucking blah, and you just have a crew full of dudes that you really need to just fucking get rid of if you build that shit too fast.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what happened to us.
Everyone needs, like, no matter who they are, like, and they come into your system, everyone needs to be they need to be retrained. Like if you have a field supervisor, he needs to be fucking retrained by a director of field operations, and then it just slowly branches out from there. Because if you don't do that, you're fucked, dude.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 100%. Yeah, because there's a different way that everybody learns, and there's a lot of stuff that gets let go. So like, I have a company that's local that will hire people that leave my company. Like I think they try to cherry pick people from my company, but then they'll also hire people from my company. If someone leaves me looking for a job, they usually end up over there. And so whatever we're doing, I think they just trust that we're training these guys well enough that they can come in and swoop in on them, right? And bring them over. But I have some guys that so I'd like to spend more of my time training guys. And I'm not spending enough time training some of the guys. So, you know, there could be someone that's a foreman of mine now, one of these guys that are not quite journeyman, but he's technically a foreman for my company. And if this other company wanted to come and snatch him up, he would say, oh yeah, I'm a foreman. I've been a foreman for the last 3 years for JQ Paint. You know, they might pay him well, thinking that he's been trained under us for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's not that good. You know, he just hasn't learned our whole process, right? It's like he's good enough for me to not have to spend a lot of time with him, but he doesn't have everything down. You know,
I had my ex-brother-in-law do that shit. Like and he's like fucking never mind. I'm not going to talk about that, but the dude doesn't, you know, he might just need to lay down in a ditch and die sometime. But fucking, I ran into him at like Menards, and he was with like this, a look at both of this dude he was with, and they're, you know, like in blue jeans and shit, and they've got paint on them. And he's like, hey, this is my brother. He taught me everything I know about paint. And I'm like, you motherfucker, dude. I've fired you like 3 times.
Yeah.
And in very short fucking increments of time. Like, I couldn't even get you to roll a piece of paper out on the floor right. Fucking using your name and stuff. That's what guys do. That's what guys do. They'll go work somewhere for a few months and then think they know something and then say they've been doing it for 10 years and go somewhere else. And then, after a couple years, you've got yourself a 20-year fucking painter.
Yep. I know. In like less than 5 years.
Yeah. So let's go with this second guy that wrote in.
Thank you for listening to the Paint Sniffer Podcast.